I listen to so many people's stories, and I know so many women. But I never met any women like my mom. I don't know her whole story, but I know a lot of it. And I know a lot of it because she told it to my stepdad, and he communicated it to me. So, what I do know is this, and she admitted to it, like, towards the end, that she, if you said go left, she had to go right. She had like this thing where she rebelled against authority, and that included, her father, who was very much an authority figure. My mother was born in 1930. Her father worked in the steel mills. Her mother was a homemaker. And my grandfather, he came up from Mississippi during the Great Migration, and he raised his family, and he was very much a strict patriarch who ended up having, some of his children rebel against him and go their dusty ways. And my mother, she rebelled, and he didn't know, how do you deal with a kid like that when in the 40s, right? How do you deal with a rebellious daughter in the 40s? And so he did some things to her that traumatized the living hell out of her. I don't get me wrong, I have no sympathy for my grandfather because that's another story. But anyway, so my mother, she was a rebellious woman, and she had a child when she was a teenager, and and then she didn't have any more children for a very long time until she met my dad when she was in close to 30, and then they had a whole bunch of kids, like bam, 5 in a row. And so and he did his dusty duties, and absconded. And then my mother, she put on, she was a little petite thing. She put on her like A-line skirt and her CFMPs and that bouffant hair. And she went and got her another husband, because that's what you did in those days. And she got this guy who was, did she get the pick of the litter? Pick of the litter. And so he married her and just adored her. Adored her. It's like, damn, I wish somebody would love me like that. Jesus. And they raised all of us. But she was a fighter. And if somebody came to her, one way, she solved that problem. We used to say dynamite comes in small packages, and we had some trauma. In the early days when they first got together, they were like, drinkers, and they were both ugly drunks, and so sometimes there was violence. Once, one time he smashed her face in, and this is the guy. And so then the next time he thought he was going to jump back, she stabbed him. Yes, it's a true story. My mother stabbed her husband in the chest, and the ambulance, they came and got him, took him to the hospital, and the police took her little, tiny mean self to jail. And when he got out of the hospital, he came home and he rounded up us kids, because I think the oldest one of us was like 11 and the youngest one was 5, and we had to go bail my mama out of jail. And and he said, yeah, because that's his wife, because he knew he was wrong. He knew he had it coming. So that was those marriages. And later on, my mother, she would make jokes about like the time she spent like in jail, talking about how they made a grilled cheese sandwich with an iron and bread and cheese, and she was like, and they were like, "What you think, this the Hilton?" That's actually one of the funny stories in my family. Yeah, because when you come from people who are traumatized, and you try to find the humor. But that was my mom. And she was also a civil rights worker. I have newspaper clippings of her, many. And she was the woman athlete of the year at her health club, like around 1978, something like that. And she worked her way through school. She got her GED, then she got a bachelor's, then she got a master's. I mean, basically my whole childhood she was taking classes. And it's and I was in college and she was in college and I was helping her write some of her papers. So I love my mama. Although we did not get along, child. Ooh, I did not make peace with her until until close to the end of her life. I didn't make peace with her because I was an easy child. But then again, she wasn't an easy mother. Ooh, you know what they say? Okay. So, but I love her. We called her DW.